Are you tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Want to spend time on your hobbies or go out with your friends instead? Introducing iCapital, where you can get independent, objective, and comprehensive investment advice on the go. Available in English and Mandarin and can be accessed via app, website, and print copy. We provide thorough, first-hand research-based findings on listed companies, economies, and stock markets, and clear perspective of how markets interact and how they influence investments, as well as provide Malaysian and global stock recommendations, stock portfolios with outstanding performance to follow. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. From only 49 ringgit a year, start investing like a fund manager. Subscribe now at www.icapital.biz.
Hi, good morning everyone. Teng Boo from Capital Dynamics again, and I hope you have a good busy week, because today our topic is concerning work-life balance and overcapacity. So if you have been following the spat between US, China, Europe, China, one of the latest accusations that America and Europe have levied against China is harmful overcapacity. This was brought up, I think, by Janet Yellen when she visited China last year. And then after that, there's been a chorus of Western politicians from US, from Europe, making the same accusation. So today I'm going to discuss with you, share with you my observations. What are really the factors that have contributed to the so-called China's overcapacity? I think my answers will surprise you. And in the very first place, I just want to make it clear that I don't believe in this overcapacity kind of theory that was introduced by America and Europe. Well, let's recapitulate and see what they say. Janet Yellen, the US Treasury Secretary, calls for a united front on Chinese industrial overcapacity. And she says that many countries are threatened by exports from China. Well, I'm not surprised with her comments. Next, the former Belgian envoy to the European Union by the name of John de Rood says that China's manufacturing overcapacity is not intentional. Is that correct? And what does he mean? Interestingly, a US official says that the West needs creative ideas to deal with China's overcapacity. There are all kinds of suggestions, but this is interesting. Creative ideas, new ways. In some sense, I agree with him. It's just that the new ways that he's talking about, that I'm thinking of, actually are not new ways. They're actually going back to basic principles. First thing, is China the only country providing subsidies? Of course, no. Is China the only country providing lots of subsidies? No. America, just to give you two very simple examples and very recent examples, the CHIPS Act, which America is so proud of, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which Joe Biden is very proud of. Both of them are basically subsidies, huge subsidies, in the hundreds of billions of US dollars. Don't be misled. The Inflation Reduction Act, the name doesn't tell you what the act is all about. The act is all about subsidies. It's nothing to do with reducing inflation. Anyway, I don't want to get distracted. These are just two very high-profile examples of subsidies from the supposedly free market economy of the United States. So please don't come and bullshit me and say that China is the only country providing subsidies to whatever industries. Every country does it, big, small, large, backward, advanced, every country does it. So if you look at Financial Times, which through the headlines is telling the world, look, if you have a subsidy race with US and China, that will only harm the ailing economies of Europe, because many of the economies in Europe are really ailing. And IMF says, EU, please do not have protectionist policies. And the IMF told the EU, the European Union, please focus on cutting your own internal trade barriers instead of scapegoating somebody else. So there you go. IMF says there's subsidy from America, subsidy from China, subsidy from Europe. I rest my case. Let's move on to the real factors. Now, we always hear work-life balance, we must have work-life balance, you must have work-life balance, and so on and so forth. And they always tell you, work smart is the advice that we always hear. And don't work hard. Work hard is an attribute that is often seen as stupid, don't work hard, and portrayed as bad. And it's a habit that you must immediately throw away. So, work hard only, or work smart only, or both? Let's dig deeper. Now, this is from the International Labour Organization, ILO. It shows you the average hours per week per employed person, right? India and China, of course, they spend a lot of time working every week. Then, below that is United States. And you go down, the list of the countries, they're all Western European countries. At the bottom is Netherlands. The difference between, I don't talk about China, I talk about India. The difference between India and Netherlands per week is about 15 hours of work. That is per week. 1 month is 60 hours, a year is 720 hours. Can you imagine how much more you can produce? How much more you can generate? But it's not just Netherlands. If you look at the whole list here, the difference is great. But they will tell you, the Westerners will tell you, work smart, you must have work-life balance. Is that correct? Or are they trying to undermine the development strategies of the developing countries? Oh, by the way, they say, don't say thank God it's Friday anymore. In the past, they say, thank God it is Friday. Now, what do they say? They want 4-day work weeks. Now they say, thank God it is Thursday. And very soon, in some of the European countries, they will say, thank God it is Tuesday. And very soon, thank God it is no day. So what on earth is happening to the work culture, the work ethics in the United States, in the Western countries? Not only do they tell you, don't work hard, but they're asking you to cut down the days of work. The United States have got 12 federal holidays on top of the 4-day, 4.5 day, 3-day, whatever it is. 12 holidays. Next will be Germany, 9 public holidays. Next will be United Kingdom, 8 public holidays. Of course, UK, Germany, United States cannot beat Malaysia. Malaysia is a world-class country when it comes to holidays. I think we have something like 14 to 16 public holidays in a year. They come nowhere near us. Then what about China? China has only 7 public holidays in a year, legal holidays. The Chinese public holiday system is very different. You've got to be careful because they may give you 4 days of rest in a stretch, and then you have to pay back. You have to pay back in another Sunday, in another Saturday. But legally, there are 7 holidays in China. Now, here you have, I will show you some of the figures which shows that the Western countries are just not working, right? They don't believe in work-life balance. They only believe in the life part, not the work part. So, if you add on to the technical and the scientific capabilities of the Chinese people, then you would not be surprised at the conclusion that the Chinese companies are super competitive. Let's look at the Nature Index. Nature is a magazine. They have a nature portfolio where it's to serve the research community, particularly on the science side, by publishing the most significant discoveries, findings that will advance knowledge and address some of the greatest challenges that we, the world as a whole, face. And their journals not only publish primary research, but also reviews, critical comments, and analysis, and so on. Now, based on this, they have a Nature Index. Let's take a look at their Nature Index. This is a ranking of institutions with the highest share of articles published in scientific journals all over the world. Guess what? Out of this, these are 34 institutions here. Number 1 is the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Number 3 is the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Number 5 is University of Science and Technology of China in Hefei. Number 6 is Zhejiang. Number 7 is Beijing University. Number 8 is Nanjing. Number 9 is Tsinghua. Number 11 is Sun Yat-sen University. And the list goes on. Out of 34, about half are from China. Where is, Britain is University of Oxford. Oh, there's one there. University of Cambridge, there's 2 there. Well, the rest will be a bit from America, 1 from Germany. I don't see anyone from France, anyone from Switzerland, anyone from Netherlands. Let's go to the next page. Again, half of them are from China. Xiamen University, Jilin University, Suzhou University, Tianjin Universities. These articles are published in English. I'm not counting those published in Chinese. This is in English. So you look at the top 50 institutions, these are scientific journals, half of them come from China. Doesn't that indicate to you the depth and the breadth of talent within China? Let's take a look at another aspect. This is the Index of Excellence in STEM education. STEM education is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are not at the high level of the postgraduate studies. This is more at the student level. This is at the International Olympiad competition level. So they have 5 International Biology Olympiad, International Chemistry Olympiad, International Mathematics, Olympiad in Informatics, and Physics. 5 of them. And what do the results tell you? Well, as you can see on the right-hand side, right? For the last 30 years, every year, PRC, People's Republic of China, is ranked number 1 for the last 30 years. And if you look down the list, right, US is sometimes at number 2, sometimes number 3, sometimes number 4. UK sometimes number 10, sometimes number 28. Germany sometimes number 6, sometimes number 30. And then I don't see any other European countries. The rest are other countries like Korea, India, Singapore, Vietnam, Iran. These are the younger ones, which means this will be the pool of future talents, right? And you will see China is there consistently for the last 30 years. Next, the countries with the number of STEM graduates, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is the latest that we have. China produces in 2020 almost 3.6 million STEM graduates. The United States, 820,000. Germany, 216,000. Japan, 182,000. My God, the gap is so big. But this is absolute number because China has got a large population. Let's take a look at the next. This is percentage of total graduates that are specializing in STEM. Of course, China is way ahead. 41% of their graduates are STEM graduates. Let me look at US. 20%, half of China. Germany, okay, not too bad in terms of percentage. France, not too bad. But nevertheless, China is still way ahead. So you look at postgraduate at very high level scientific research. Look at those, the younger ones. Look at those in the middle at the university graduates. China is way ahead in terms of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And don't forget, let's look at the next, the working culture. This is from You can see the forum at the bottom here. Some interesting facts about China. The Chinese people do not dismiss the importance of working hard, but they truly embrace it, believing that hard work begets success. The working culture in China is a unique one, and it can be seen as a stark difference and almost a clash with the working culture of the Western world. Remember, thank God it's Friday, thank God it's Thursday. The Chinese grew up in a society of constant competition, 1.4 billion people. And you know, they sit for the cow, the very advanced level of competition of exam, which is millions and millions of students sit every year, and having the spirit of being exceptionally goal-oriented and KPI-driven. That is why some Chinese themselves cannot withstand the very competitive environment. That's why they move out to countries like Australia, Canada, and so on. The idiom, hard work beats talent, is something that the Chinese can firmly attest to. The Chinese are being taught that through hard work and diligence, anything can be achieved. As I showed you earlier, in terms of smartness, the Chinese are way ahead. In terms of ability to work hard, they are way ahead. So when you combine working hard and working smart, you get the Chinese competition. Let's take a look at what other people say. Martin Sorrell, he used to be the head of WPP. WPP is the largest advertising firm in the world. He has retired. So in 1989, he was traveling from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, and he couldn't believe his eyes. It was a Sunday, and thousands of Chinese were working. So he asked, Martin Sorrell asked, what are the British doing at this time on a Sunday? He was telling the UK's newspaper Daily Telegraph, the British people will be watching football in the pub. And Martin Sorrell says, we have no choice but to expand to China. The future is here. This is 1989, 34, 35 years ago. Nothing has changed, you know. Let's listen to Kuan Yew in 2004, the brilliant Prime Minister of Singapore, right? He contrasted the two Asian giants, China and India, placing his bets squarely on China. What did he say? The Indians do not have the Confucian culture. Without a culture that enjoins you to endure hardship and have the stamina to struggle on in a cohesive society where the individual subsumes himself for the benefit of the family and his society, it's difficult to expect that degree of sacrifice. Agree or not? Understand or not? This is why the Chinese companies, whether it's EV or whatever it is, or the solar cell companies, are so super competitive. What about this show, this award-winning documentary called American Factory, where they showed the tensions that exist within a Chinese-owned Ohio-based factory. The factory is based in Ohio, America, but it's owned by a Chinese company. So in the United States, we fought to have an 8-hour day and have weekends off. That's pretty much unheard of in industrial work in China. If the boss says you have to work 6 days a week or 7 days a week, you just do it. So the producer describes the relationship between this Chinese company and its American employees as a complicated one. People are grateful for the jobs because what happened was this factory was closed down. I think it was closed down by General Motors or an American auto company. So they lost jobs. So people are grateful for the jobs. But the work is tough, especially on the factory floor. It's hard, it's hot, it's dangerous, and expectations are very high. And yet the pay is not what it should be. That describes an American environment. You don't get that in China, or India, or Indonesia, or Vietnam. Just to show you some stereotypes, on the left, the sunbathing, whether on the beach or near the Eiffel Tower. On the right side, they're working very hard in the factory, not complaining. What to do? Different work cultures. Thomas Friedman, a very famous American thinker and author. He wrote the book World is Flat long time ago, about 20 years ago. Right? Friedman says that how can we ensure that our American children are ready to compete and succeed in the new flat world? He described the world at the time that the world is flat. He says the key is education. So he says, Friedman tells his own daughters, girls, when I was growing up, my parents used to say to me, Tom, finish your dinner. People in China and India are starving. Then Tom Friedman says, my advice to you now is, girls, finish your homework. People in China and India are starving for your jobs. They are not stealing your jobs. The people in China, in India, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, they are not stealing your jobs. They are working then hard, they are motivated, and they are smart. They can be as smart as you Americans or the Europeans, or even smarter than you. So there you go. The secrets of China's industrial overcapacity. Nothing to do with subsidies. There's a lot of American, European bullshit. Subsidies. They subsidize so much. And you know what? Well, let's look at the next one. So he gave you, Thomas Friedman gave you some numbers. This was about 20 years ago, how America has dropped in education quality, in education standard, comparing with Singapore, Taiwan, and so on. And of course, if you compare with Vietnam and China, the same results can be seen. But what is interesting is next. This is GDP per capita of China at the bottom, UK, Germany, and US. In US dollars, as you can see, China, even after so many years of successful growth and development, China's GDP per capita now is about 13,000 US dollars, US is about 80,000, Germany, UK 45 to 55,000. So this is the other factor in China's competitiveness or overcapacity, because the wages in US, Europe are so much higher than in China. Now you have the Chinese people, very hardworking, smart people, highly educated, and at wages which are much lower. So, if you take the GDP per capita as equivalent to, say, wages, just to give you a simple illustration, right? So America's GDP per capita is about 7 times higher than that of China. 81,000 divided by 13,000 is about 7 times. So are you telling me that the American worker is 7 times smarter than the Chinese worker? Are you telling me that the American worker is 7 times more productive than the Chinese worker? You know the answer. The Chinese worker, even though is getting only like 13%, 14% of what the American worker is getting, is better educated, smarter, and works harder than the American worker. So there's no subsidy. There's no need for subsidy for them to compete and for them to outcompete their competitors in America and Europe, or even Japan. So what should the West do? This is the part that I love, because Greece about 2 weeks ago introduced a law that makes 6-day week compulsory. Hey, Mr. Prime Minister of Malaysia, can you please consider making 6-day compulsory in Malaysia as well? Why? Greece is a much richer country than Malaysia, GDP per capita is much higher. Greece is a member of the EU, right? And in Europe, they're going to 4-day week. Suddenly, Greece is going the other direction because they got shrinking population, they got shortage of skilled workers, and because the workers are not so well trained and not so smart and not so hardworking. That is the solution for Germany, for France, for Netherlands, for America. Why don't you start introducing 6-day week? And then we'll see who will be able to compete better. Of course, you got to improve your education system. Of course, you got to make sure that, work-life balance in the correct direction. right? Greece. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are Malaysians who are not familiar, do you know that in Sarawak, the state in Malaysia, well, we don't call it a state anymore, it's like territory, because Sarawak, you don't call it chief minister, you call it a premier, right? Sarawak has been introducing a lot of very sensible policies, socio-economic policies that we in West Malaysia would love to have. And you know what? In Sarawak, they have 6-day week. Not 5 day, not 5.5, 6-day week, Sarawak. Now maybe I should move my headquarters to Sarawak. But let's conclude this and talk about work-life balance, right? The work-life balance in the Western countries is out of balance. That is why they cannot compete with the Chinese companies. That is why they give you this very naughty label called industrial overcapacity and say it's all due to subsidies. In future, now they'll complain about China. In future, these Western countries will not be able to compete with the companies from India, from Indonesia, from Vietnam. It's going to be there. This problem is going to be there a long, long time. Unless the Western countries and their very highly paid workers and not so well educated workers and lazy workers get their work-life balance back in balance. Follow Greece. So there's no such thing as harmful overcapacity from China. It's just good old-fashioned basic principles. Work hard, work smart, and be well educated. I hope you enjoy my talk today. As I told you, the real answers will shock you because the Western media won't tell you all this. Only Teng Boo from Capital Dynamics will. So please like our channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, we are now getting close to 10,000 subscribers. Subscribe more. Let us reach the 10,000 magical figure. And better still, share, tell your friends that our channel is something that you can get very interesting observations, very interesting analysis that you cannot get from anywhere else. And all based on facts, not fake news. With that, I hope you have a good weekend tomorrow, and I'll see you again next Saturday. Bye-bye.